Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Hero Podcast 64. My name is Brian G from Aligned Data Strategy ADS with my co-host, the real Pete Kirkwood, and of course, our special guest, Daniel Willis, probably going back for work. Now, Pete Kirkwood, you're our success maker, our king maker, our topic decider. Now, what's our topic for today, Pete?
Well, today we're getting into a really good topic. It's quite a dense topic, and you had the inspiration for this one, Ryan. You reached out and said, hey, let's talk about the banality of modern evil and can we be heroes in a modern age? And I think that's really cool because it's very applicable to life as we're living it, as we're experiencing it now. And that's what a lot of people are, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of people are looking for that fantasy archetype of the hero that's cool, that inspires them, that moves them emotionally, that stirs them and shifts them. But they also do live a modern day life and they do deal with Magdalene at the DMV who's all like this with the paperwork.
Right, with drones, basically.
Exactly. And you've got to deal with that kind of stuff. And it's it's not exactly Grand Theft Auto out there. You can't just be like, I'm sick of your bureaucracy. Like, it doesn't fucking work like that. You actually have to live in the real world. And you have to come up with a way of interacting with the world around you that's passively evil, right? Like, it's ignorantly evil. There's a really fantastic webcomic called Order of the Stick, and it's all Dungeons and Dragons, and it gets. Do you know Order of the Stick?
I have no idea, but continue.
Okay. So it's all Dungeons and Dragons inspired, but it's a complete piss take about the characters who are all heroes and they're on the quest to, whatever the hell, and then it becomes bigger and grander and it's a great story. But it delves into all the different archetypes. So you get to things like a kingdom that's lawful evil. So the whole kingdom is evil, but it's all run by rules and laws. So it's like, you can feed people to the dragons, but only between these times. So it's really fascinating how you see people, as long as the rules are there, they go along with it. And it's a cartoon and it's a piss take and it's Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, sure, it speaks to the reality of life because we deal with people who they don't know that what they're doing might be evil. They're just doing their job. And their job puts food on their table and it looks after their life and all the rest of it. And you're sitting there having to deal with someone who's being evil, but they're just ignorant. From their position, they're probably good. Is that sort of the challenge of dealing with this modern evil that you're sort of were thinking of when you had this topic in mind, Ryan?
Yeah, pretty much. It's the passivity that gets us in trouble a lot. We see it as with our own lives very easily. The moment you put aside or procrastinate, let's say, that's a very easy example of, it's very small evil that tends to stack up and it creates chaos, and that chaos, you're going to have to deal with it sooner or later. And the sooner you can deal with it, the better. But of course, 9 out of 10 times we do not. And if we take this on a more massive scale, let's say family, then we get family problems over generations upon generations. And if you take it on to companies, you have a legacy that is not being fixed. And if you take it into countries, you have policies that don't make sense anymore in the context of current society. I mean, let's face it, the Constitution, whenever that might have been written, even going back 10 years ago, in the current situation, it just doesn't make sense anymore. And thus, you have the idea of true freedom lies in our discipline. Then going back to the question of can we be heroes again, then we need to realize that this is not an easy question to answer. The logical answer is yes, but without carefully considering what you have to do from both strategic, tactical, and operational perspectives, we might be doing the same as our current government by first creating
I
anarchy.
see what you're saying.
And then, what are your thoughts, Pete?
I see what you're saying, because it's very easy to act heroically, but if you don't know what you're doing, that's not necessarily a heroic action, right?
Exactly.
Like I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I can picture the trope, the meme in my mind, where you have the good-meaning idiot who's like, "Oh, yeah, I can push the button." Everyone's like, "Don't push the button." They're like, "Push the button." Everyone's like, "Don't
Exactly.
push the button," and they think they're doing a good thing. And I think a lot of the world has become distracted. They've lost focus on what's truly important in a grander sense of life. And they're so
Right.
caught up in paying bills this week and the latest episode of what's on TV and this,
Right.
that, and the other, that they're just at work, man, and they're just doing a job, man, and they're just following a rule, man, and whatever
Exactly.
it is.
But as to take, the side of the public for a quick second,
Yeah.
I cannot expect, let's say, people from the general public to change easily. One, they're already in the rhythm, which has become natural, it's become passive, it's become automatic, automate, robotic. It is so in their nature to be that to change it would take a lot of effort. However, they can always change. And that's the reason why we do these podcasts. Did you ever notice that musicians that inspire get killed very fast? I mean,
Yes, well, this is
becoming a hero, you know, a hero, but an actual hero that's also a threat to, let's say, whatever evil that's out there, becomes such a big threat that automatically you get a target on your back, and if you're not careful, on every part of your body. Now, to make it even simpler, it's the same thing as you become more successful in life, be it in business, be it with women, be it, healthier even. You will get, let's say, quote unquote haters because that is the law of nature. So as you become more heroic, especially more heroic towards yourself, let's start with that. As we've gone to the IMC process, which consists of, cold showers, etc. For those of you that know, you know, what I have managed to reach is more appreciation for myself. I think I'm viewing myself as someone with more self-respect, more self-admiration. I carry myself in that way. Now, I might not be the most physically imposing man, but I play to my strengths now even more because I love it. And strangely, the more I love myself, the more I refuse to step down from standards, especially moral standards and principles and etc. Now, imagine if I continue on this process and create more intensity. At some point, I become the next Theodore Roosevelt because love it or hate him, he is one of the most disciplined presidents ever to exist. Without him, there would be no national parks in the USA. He created that movement of the nature-loving American,
that's
but
so
not
awesome.
only from an idealistic perspective, but also from a very pragmatic perspective. And there's where you can be heroes again. Yes, if you take heroes, inspirations, references, character references like Theodore Roosevelt, he clearly has a love for nature. He loves hunting, but he's also very entrepreneurial, very industrious man. So he realizes, what do we gain from this really? Yes, we're preserving this, but if the companies that You know, I am denying permit can get something from this as well, meaning the real estate increases with nature parks. Genius. Now, I don't know the full story and I don't know all the details, but Theodore Roosevelt's a man that did his homework. So if one is to defeat the banality that is bureaucracy, evil bureaucracy, let's say the mundanity of life, it starts first with oneself. It's like what Jordan Peterson says, if you want to change the world, clean your fucking room. Because where there is chaos, you will trip and fall. Pete, you have some thoughts. I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah, well, I think it's very interesting because you talked about not being the strongest man, rah, 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 and I kind of scoffed at that, and I want to explain why I laughed. Because it's not about a physical strength. The aura that you have, that you carry with you, right? That is more powerful than anybody else in the environment. And it's very obvious. Like, it becomes apparent quite quickly when you compare. You know, you'll see quite quickly that if you've actually become that person and you are that person on the inside, it expresses itself in the environment in a vibe. And I know from a fact that from what you've described about your social experiences over the weekend, plus the way I live my life, and Dan here on the call, I know all three of us men have that aura. And I know that Dan's has changed over time. His is now sharper. I'm not 100% sure. I think yours has probably come through. And mine, I've always had it, but now I'm much more in control of it. To a point where, you know, it's like something I was always aware of, but now I get it. And now that I get it, it's crazy. It's like having an instrument your entire life there, and you can and occasionally you get like a bit of a tune out of it, and people are like, oh, that's cool. But that's different to when you know what you're doing, and all of a sudden Mozart flows.
Exactly.
And it becomes that piece where it all just flows together so beautifully.
It's funny you should say that. It is this something I learned when gaming with Tariq, as well as working with my business coach Joe Nicasio. One of the things that I managed to learn is what is common for me is uncommon for others, meaning that's where my genius zone is. It's where my natural talent lies, is the things that I like to do, or the problems that I can solve. Now, becoming a hero is, let's say I'm very good at making friends quick in unknown environments. And that's one of the things that my good friend Tariq noticed. You can put me in the most random situation. We went to an after party with these Surinamese guys. I don't know 90% of them, but I only need to make one friend.
Yeah.
The whole philosophy of vibe attracts tribe. If I can get close enough to him, I don't have to be his friend, but it clicks. It becomes as if I'm dancing with a certain vibe, as if I am a director, a musical director, a componist, as the Dutch would say, where I'm trying to feel out what's the right tune. And the moment I have that frequency, it's time to game. It's time to play. It's time to dance.
And I think that's an excellent point to bring up, because you've really described tuning into the environment and why. What's the point? Well, the point is, like we said, how do you confront the banality of modern evil?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how are you doing that? So what you actually end up doing is you create a vibe that radiates around you that changes other people's vibes,
right,
and turns it into a positive good, because you can't fight everyone, but you have to somehow. So the only way you can do it is on an energetic and spiritual level, and the fact that when they encounter you, it makes them go, huh, and their mind changes from whatever their mind was. Their mind's going along like this. It's just going along like this. and then you go woof, 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 and all of a sudden they go, I have to think about something differently. Now, I had an encounter with the staff / security, whatever you want to call it, at my local supermarket about mandates and stuff like that.
Right.
And the energy I had and the way I chose to handle it was so smooth, because I inspired everybody there to follow my lead, because everybody wished they were me. Everyone was standing around awkward, nervous, just really unsure of what was going on. And I was just casually doing whatever I was doing at my pace as I was being asked. I was looking at my phone to get the thing and the this and the that, and then they're holding my shopping and balancing, and oh, would you mind holding this for me? Thank you, and blah, and just going about my life, completely undisturbed by everything. And that
Right.
level of it's not a problem made everybody else go, man, I feel bad for even trying to give this guy a hard time.
Yeah.
And it sets them in their mind to be like, why am I doing this? Why am I asking this guy this? Why am I harassing this guy, man? I feel bad about harassing this guy. But if I was like, well, fuck you, why do you make it so hard? Then they're like, because I have to, it's my job. And then they're like, I'm doing a good
Exactly.
job because I'm doing my job. Yeah. And all of a sudden you've just reinforced all of their whatever they're doing. Yeah, I'm
That's a
doing a good job
very
because I'm doing my
interesting thing
job.
that you're doing. It's very similar to what you've learned from ACD when your reputation is being attacked.
Oh, yeah.
You are being attacked, even though it's in their right to do so because that's their job. Yeah. Or we don't agree with, what your job entails, or even more petty in how they do it. I don't have to defend myself.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that I've said many times, I came to a rush not just from the perspective of I want help with girls. I came to a rush from the perspective of how do you get better at the business sales process? And then
Right.
while I was looking through marketing and that kind of stuff, someone said, man, I know someone who's an expert on the subject of women in this. And I said,
I see.
okay, let's have a look. And then I realized that the tie-in there was through the psychology,
I
through the
see.
actual principles that make human beings work. Fuck what they teach at university. I went to university. I
Yeah.
quit because that shit's just toxic. But what you're finding is, man, I don't want to make that comparison. It's too extreme. Hang on. Because that's a perfect example of right then and there, I know that I can say something that's going to sound cool. It's going to use extremely evocative language. It's going to be
Yeah.
extremely emotional. A lot
Right.
of people who are in the camp are going to agree. But people who are on the fence about this kind of stuff, it's going to push them away.
Right.
Because he's so extreme, I can't handle it. I want to speak in a level where I'm putting something out there that everyone can go, you know what, that's a valid point. I don't like that guy, and he's an asshole, and I hate everything he stands for, but I can't argue with what he said.
Right.
That's the communication I want to put out there.
You're touching
And so,
upon a very powerful point.
yeah,
Going back to the original question, can we become heroes? That is yes. We can by being proactive in using our ideals practically, but also play to our strengths. You touch upon that specifically. Why? Because both you and I are very communicative, let's say, in different ways. I'm good at networking and making friends quickly and playing that game. You're very good at bringing up upon the message, rising the message and taking a rise out of people. We're very good at that. Now, let's say we use that power, returning power, whatever that may be. It's the same thing as using the power of fire, be it literally or metaphorically, to either build someone up or ruin their lives. A hero
yes,
has that power. A hero is a hero because not only does he want to do the good thing, but he's an active threat to whatever is blatantly evil.
correct.
And in that, be it both small and big, I would almost demand a gradual increase in discipline, or you start small. I like the momentum loop. And every time you have to start over, you start small again. Very similar to the IMC process. If you miss your wake up time, that's fine. Be well rested, start again. Because we need to find the answer to our pain. You see what I did there? You find the
Yeah.
answer through the pain. And what is the pain? That is a perceived evil. The perceived evil could be, some random inconvenience. But that random inconvenience might as well be something that is balancedly evil. Being.
Yeah.
Did you see the trend of
I
the
do.
mundanity,
And
of the reluctance to change things for the better?
and the danger, like, well, I see how you're not the danger, but what you're looking for is a balance, right? Where you have a structure
Yeah.
that you can rely on, but you'll also flow from a place of intuition and spirit, right? Because you have
Right.
to make your judgments, right? You have to judge, find what is just, find justice by what you know is right. So, for example, having a structure that organizes everything, runs everything, and all the rest of it, well, that structure can become corrupted over time. That can become evil. And a lot of the time, that's how the banality of that evil creeps into the world, creeps into our lives, creeps into things around us.
Right.
So you have to know how to create structure, new structure that's
Right.
healthy, and be able to continuously move and grow and adapt and evolve. Because
Agree.
what is a healthy farming practice on a piece of land will change over time as the environment changes.
Yeah.
And you've got to remember that your life is very much the same thing. And I've seen that in the way that I watch like seasons happen in my own life and for my clients. But let's speak for myself because it's easy. I know that when I came to the village, I was in a certain kind of a place and I needed to get to a certain kind of a place in terms of I was so anxious after being attacked. Like I was so aggressive to the world around me. I was so defensive and so hyper aware to any
Right.
perceived threat. And that was something I had to work through. And then I had to work through a whole nother phase. And now I've
Right.
gone so far to the other point where I still am hyper aware of what's going on around me. I haven't lost that ability, but I'm hyper insensitive. So someone's like, you got a small dick. And I'm like, what?
Right.
And they're like, and they're like, I don't know how to handle that because everyone usually comes back at you and you're
Yeah.
kind of just like, what?
You touched upon
What do you
something
mean?
interesting, Pete. Um, a hero
It's a
that doesn't
level of
understand.
Zen. Go for it.
Yeah. Thank you. A hero that does not understand the dynamics of life, social politics, will not be as effective. And thus, you have the idea of creating a system must be done with a team. No hero can truly be effective without being a very good generalist and being maybe okay, or being a decent generalist with a few specialities, let's say.
I know what you're
And,
saying.
and then let's say, like we both specialists in communication, but we have very clear specialists in what we really do. There's a very clear nuance. And if we work together, we become very powerful. And it's the same thing with fighting, it's the same thing with war, it's the same thing with business, it's the same thing with love. We need to create systems that work against a system that does not. And it's not simply a human system, it's also an IT system. Let's take a random business. Daniel decides to buy a shopping system. But after 20 years of using it, the system becomes legacy. The system doesn't perform as it should. There's new technology that the system cannot be, integrated with. That's a massive loss for Daniel. Meaning, there has not been enough reflection on Daniel's and Daniel's team's part. And thus, what has become the advantage is now an absolute disadvantage and thus evil for the company because we're losing time, money, and everybody's frustrated. And that's where you come in, Pete, to help with the people. And that's where I come in to help figure out how the hell we get out of this situation from a data and IT perspective, and of course, business. What's up, Daniel? Daniel, you have a question.
Does this, not really a question, but just to expand on what you guys have been speaking on, is it now coming down to the comfort in compliance?
I would say so, yeah. Because isn't it funny?
So instead of being uncomfortable and fighting the system, in terms of being intuitive, going out there, innovation, things like that, being creative, you just go with the flow, go with what's happening. You comply because it's a comfort thing. And then overall, when it finally comes around to the end, say, 10, 15, 20 years down the track,
yeah,
you no longer have the edge, your compliance, your comforts are all gone because the system's changed.
Right. To answer it shortly, systems will always change. It's like nature. There will be always seasons, etc. What I've seen in companies primarily is we need to beat the market basically. Because now we have cloud technology and God only knows what will be coming next. Now, literally, I am having to study new technology to keep up. In this case, cloud technology, because I'm also a data consultant. Now, what you get is, it's the same thing with life in general. As we've learned with the ACD process, we men especially, because I'm talking about the men's perspective, we men are built for conflict. But with conflict comes a lot of friction. Now we might be able to face it and become hard and tough men, which is very attractive, both for the business perspective, because we know how to handle it, as well as from a sexual perspective, because we are no longer weak men, we are hard and tough men. And tough men create great times. However, looking at it from the internal perspective, we become so hard that we hurt ourselves. That's detrimental. We become so hard that we have such an edge that we cut ourselves. And that's where Zen Buddhism comes into play. The whole idea of Zen Buddhism, also known as what we apply within the IMC community, the surrender experiment is to help us ease the pain. Because within the pain lies the answer. And that's what consultants usually do. Through the pain that we find, we improve the company, not only by taking away the symptoms, but actually approaching the root cause. Turning the root cause of a lot of problems into an advantage. Now your sales process, your marketing process, and your actual fucking delivery of the service and product improves to such a degree that you are the new Amazon of whatever you're doing. Because let's face it, if you follow the idea of Ubuntu, if there's no enemy within, the enemy without can do us no harm. If we as a person, as a family, a tribe, a country can be better within, I would like to see China fuck with New Zealand. Do you understand what I'm saying there? If we have no enemies within, if you have no enemies within your house, how many times have you not seen businesses fail because the wife decides to have a road trip with divorces and you name it? We have seen that so many. I have seen it with my dad. My dad has been married 5 times.
Wow.
I can only imagine. I mean, after the first 2, what would have been done? Do you know what I mean? I mean, the joke writes itself, but it does bring us to question, if we can't be heroes, are we willing to be heroes to ourselves? I mean, that's the whole thing that we're doing with the IMC process. It is to recreate the admiration we used to have when we were younger. I remember, and I've been telling everybody this, or asking everybody the question, why is it that 5-year-old Ryan had way more admiration, way more love, way more appreciation for himself from the most natural perspective than Ryan being 30 years old? Meaning, now I have to force myself to actually go through process and rediscover that. And you see, it's the same with businesses. What happens when you rekindle that fire? Do they start to realize, Daniel, that we can always start over?
And that comes back to the whole compliance thing.
Yep.
You know, I mean, not that I know specifically on your father's situation, but it's a society thing. He's
Yeah.
complying with society, being married, you know, happy family thing. Same with a business. You know, you give up your innovation, you give up your new ideas and things to fit into a specific market instead of just going broad, you know, instead
Right.
of going, right, no, we can actually do all these things. You comply to one specific and you lose your edge. It's a comfort and compliance thing.
That is true. But with giving up the confident compliance, it is a risk that you have to take. And
It is.
great men have to take risks, calculated risks, and that's why you need a team to do the work for you. I mean, you
Yes.
hire consultants to help where you need help. I mean, that's why Pete is so successful, because he's a specialist. He knows what he does. And so I'm a specialist. We know what we're doing. And that's why heroes need a team. So together we can make a change. I mean, one of the principles that we follow within IMC, and you're well aware of that, is a man is only as strong as his tribe. And the more you look at it from through the business from a tribal perspective, you can already see that all the office politics is just such a waste of time. And that's why you
It
have
is.
movements like multidisciplinary teams, where instead of having departments, you have teams that are focused on very specific projects that help reach the fundamental business objective of a company. And that would be, 1, making money, and 2, making a very specific impact. We can only make a very specific impact, very significant impact as a company, if we're facing the same fucking way. And that's where it starts. We see this in families, people going in different fucking directions, friends, family, even lovers. Hell, my last relationship broke because I had different views on having kids, different views on women, blah, 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 over some bullshit, etc. Broke up. Now, I am not going to force anyone to have the same views, but it is fundamental that we, if I am to work together with other heroes, that we're on the same page. Because without vision, we're only getting unnecessary obstacles. Now, you need obstacles when the vision is clear, because we need to grow, we need to learn from it. And of course, with the confident compliance, the obstacles will only get bigger. Now, of course, I understand rest is important. That is important. But can we be productive in resting? I mean, how
Of
much
course.
time? Pete, I want to know your thoughts on that.
If you're focused and committed to whatever you're doing, it becomes about the intent and the purpose, right? So if you're committed to the action and you're intently focused on it, right, not distracted, and you're getting the most out of it, then you're present in the moment.
Right.
And that doesn't matter if the action is resting or if it's fighting or if it's loving or whatever that action is in the moment. It's about using your focus like a laser. So to do that, what you focus on, to change how evil is around us in a day-to-day life, because we're pretty much out of time here. Like we're up for time. So as
Yeah.
you're leading the interactions in the world around you, because as you go through the world, you've got to be cause. You can't just let the world tell you how it is. So as you lead those
Because,
interactions in the world around you, correct, be cause.
man, that's one of the old teachings. I think we basically answered the main question. Can you be heroes? Can we be heroes again? Answer is yes, because slavery into
Correct.
B space cause. And
And
it's
as, and as you are going around, what you have to do is you have to hold your inner self to knowingness and treat people in almost childlike curiosity that they wouldn't do the right thing, which is what you're doing. No judgment, no hate, no anger, just
right,
a mirror of innocent reflection for them to
right.
innocently reflect on their own self and their own actions and their own choices. Because you're never going to tell anyone to change. You're never going to convince them that they're
Yep,
wrong. That's bullshit. It doesn't work.
you're
That's
right.
shitty sales crap.
Yep,
All you're ever going to do is get someone to have a look at their own self and their
yeah.
own choices and their own actions.
This
It's
is
the only thing.
very surrender experiment like, because you also start to realize that all that anger, frustration, and etc. is nothing more than the body reacting to a situation. And you are simply the observer observing life through the medium of, the being of Ryan, the being of Daniel Willis, the being of the real Pete Kirkwood, the being of Phoenix Walker. And from that, you start to realize, wait a minute, oh, this frustration, oh, this sadness is childish.
Exactly. And you have to use that frame to deal with the banality, right? Like the
Yeah,
bureaucracy and simplicity and the basic comments and all the stuff. Like all the stuff, even the little tiny microaggressions and things,
yeah,
all of that shit in the environment, you have to approach it with that attitude to
yeah.
create that change. It's the only way to do it. It's the only way to do it.
I
So
would even add something to that, Pete, and
that's
this
it
goes
for me,
back to
brother.
Theodore Roosevelt. He was known of being a man of great study, but also he likes to study in short periods, meaning there's a theory and a principle of intensity. What if we stop wasting time and just time block for a quick hour and focus on one very specific project, no distractions, and focus on being cause. And to take Mahatma Gandhi for a second, if you want change and it start with you, it begins with you. So what if we would clean up our lives? Our life experience would change, and just a little bit of more blatant evil would be gone, because no longer am I evil towards me. Have you ever noticed that when a lot of people come into power, they become more evil because power tends to corrupt? Absolute power tends to corrupt, absolutely. So any evil that's within will destroy. And we have all been there. I mean, if I was a scumbag, I would have snapped a lot of my wrists when applying a wrist lock.
Oh, totally.
And in that, we find ethics. To the level you can apply your ethic practically, I believe you can, at the very least, improve your life. Now, we can all agree to disagree. I understand that. But there's some truth in that. Being able to embrace your philosophy in a practical way and iteratively with reflection, improve your life, and of course, improve the world around you. And that would be my takeaway. Pete, what are yours?
I think you've said it all, brother. It's about focusing from the beginning, setting the intention internally, energetically, displaying the vibe and the energy,
Right,
lifting your environment out of that mundanity and just innocently questioning what they do, whether it is good, whether it is evil, and how it all frames out. I'm gonna sort of go here, some mantis. All right, man. That's it from me, brother. Us.
Fantastic. Now for the outro, Daniel, Fight, Phoenix, thank you for joining. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been the Hero Podcast 64. I wish you the very best. Be the best, fuck the rest. As Phoenix is flipping us off. Haha. Apparently that means good luck in New Zealand. The more you know. And of course, may Allah give you the same. And if you ever to meet in the course of life, let's meet as friends, let's meet as heroes. And Jesus' world and our own lives for the better. Good morning, good evening, good night.